Day 19, everyone. We're up to day 19. Hey, it's Scott Brown here on day 19 of the 90-day Facebook Live challenge. We've reached January 5th, and tonight I wanted to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, but something that doesn't really get discussed all that often. And that's really something that comes in a very small package. It's one of these. Everybody has one of these, right? A business card. Maybe yours has something different, probably does, but everybody has a little business card at some point, correct? And how many of us at some point in our life have realized that what's written on this business card is kind of who we think we are, that this becomes our identity. And if for some reason we lose our identity, all of a sudden we lose this sense of self. Now, for those of you that know me, you know that about 8 years ago, I had, unfortunately, a rather dubious exit from the corporate world. It didn't necessarily go as planned, and it certainly wasn't handled in the most appropriate way possible. If you don't know the story, I came back from vacation, was called into my boss's office, and she told me that she was going to give me the greatest gift anybody could ever receive, was the gift of time. And that was the way that I found out that my position was being eliminated, by getting the gift of time. As Darren LaCroix would say, ouch, it hurt. See, what happens when we meet somebody, when we're out at a networking event, when we're out doing something in public? What's the first thing we say is, hi, I'm Scott. And after the introduction, what's the very next question people ask? What do you do? When you don't have one of these, when you no longer know who you are or what you do, all of a sudden, it becomes a very difficult conversation. But losing a job or losing an identity is more than just losing a card and losing a sense of self. It can be a very isolating experience. It can be a very lonely experience. Because here's what I found what happened when I lost a job. One day, I had a group of people who I relied upon and who relied upon me. And I thought they were very close friends for a lot of them. And then the day after I lost my job, all of a sudden, my phone went quiet. When I would reach out to other people, to the people that I had been close to, those phone calls were never returned. And all of a sudden, I felt completely isolated. I was alone. That there was no longer this sense of team, the sense of camaraderie, the sense of community. I was just out there by myself trying to figure out what was next. And at the time that I think I probably needed people the most was the time that I found that I had people the least. And it was a lonely experience. And I thought that I was the only one going through it until I started to talk to other people that had gone through the same or very similar experiences with losing a job, with losing a career, with moving to a new city. And they all said the same thing, that they felt isolated, that they felt disconnected from society as a whole, that they felt like they'd lost who they were, that they lost their sense of worth, that they felt alone. And when I started then to expand on that and started to dig a little bit deeper and started to talk to individuals and organizations that were really struggling, I started to hear the same sorts of things from people that were completely disengaged in their job. And what it boiled down to is one of the great disengagers, one of the great things that managers do to separate people, to gain control, not necessarily to lead, but to gain control, is to make people feel isolated, to make them feel lonely. So when you feel lonely and you feel that there's nobody out there, your sense of energy drops. It gets hard to get out of bed in the morning. It gets hard to go do the things that you want to do, that you know you need to do, that you just don't have that drive to go do those things that you know you really should do, because you feel like there's no one counting on you and you're not counting on anybody else. So what do? Do you just muddle through? Well, for me, I went out and I found another group. I happened to stumble upon a group that wanted me to be part of, and they wanted my skills and my talents. But it wasn't a paid gig. It wasn't a job. It was as a coach. It's when I started coaching baseball in Hunters Creek. And all of those guys and all of those families that kind of surrounded me and relied upon me to help coach their kids, that all of a sudden became that sense of worth that I was missing when all of a sudden I lost what was on my business card. So I still carry around with me this baseball. It's baseball signed by the 2012 Bear Creek Tigers. Now, to say we were a bad team is an understatement. When we went to Bear Creek, we won our first game of the first season we were there and didn't win another game until the last game of the second season we were there. But this ball, which comes from the second season that we were in Hunters Creek, is signed by the kids that I coached for years, and it reminds me of the families that I grew close to and that counted upon me, and that I was able to give the best of what I had to them and rediscover what it meant to contribute to others, what it meant to do something for the good of other people without any expectation of something in return. And it's a ball that's signed by a bunch of little 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds. You know, kids like Ryan Lynch and Joe Kaminsky and Nick Espelage and Matt Williams and Zach Ballin. And it was those kids and those parents, especially those parents, that helped give me that sense of worth back in my life. And not all of us are going to find something like this that's so tangible, but we can all find some way to give back, to help find that sense of worth and that sense of belonging to be who we're supposed to be. See, not everything in life works out as you would hope. The business card that I use today says nothing about who I was before, but it says everything about who I want to be tomorrow and what I'm striving to become in the future. This is my North Star in a lot of ways, because it's where I'm trying to go, but it reminds me also of where I've been and what I've lost. And if it wasn't for a lot of those Hunters Creek families, the Spike Barnes and Eric Dubois and the kids I coached, the Cassidys and Duffs and Ouellets and Smitties and Morans and all of those families, I might not have ever been able to find this again because I didn't know where I fit. If you have people in your life that you know have lost something and all of a sudden don't have this to give out anymore, that they might be feeling like they're lost and they're struggling and they might not ever say it or show it or do anything particularly well to say, help me. What they might be feeling is not just a sense of being alone, but a sense of embarrassment because they don't have what they think they should have, because they don't know who they are, and it's hard to ask for help. So as we go through this time, especially during the start of the year when we have all these grand expectations and plans for what we're going to do this year, the simplest gestures can mean the most. Reach out to those who you know are going through some sort of change in their life and just ask them, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help you take that next step forward? And they might not tell you that they need any help, and sometimes it's just that they're going to need an ear to listen to, or maybe just someone to rely on to go to dinner with them once in a while. But reach out to those people that you know are going through those changes and know that this little card can be given back in something that's completely intangible, like a smile or a hug or just a hey. I will never forget the guys I coached with, the families I coached, and especially those kids I coached, because as much as I helped them, they helped me. So who can you help? And who can help you? And who can you reach out and say, let me be the one to help rise you up from whatever it is you're going through. Have a wonderful night tonight, and I'll see you on Sunday.